on repair and rehabilitation projects and capital improvement projects to make sure that that infrastructure that is in place to provide services to your residents and customers remains high working order and able to continue to provide that uninterrupted quality service. And then third, and just as important as number one and related to number one, the rates for either of the two utilities have not been adjusted for a little over 6 years now. So as those costs have gone up over those 6 years, those rates have remained stable. And so that gap between the amount you're collecting and the amount that you're paying for all those costs has widened a bit over the 6 years. So let's talk about the kind of the process we went through and what the initial projections look like, and then we'll talk more about the recommendations and the rates, and then ultimately the next steps. So the rate study methodology is built around 3 phases, and this was described in the staff report as well. The first phase is called a revenue sufficiency phase, and that really is to answer the question of how much revenue do you need for each of the 2 utilities to do everything that they need to do and meet all the financial objectives. So that serves as the basis for a 5-year financial plan that is for the purpose of setting the rates, but we extend that 5-year plan out to 10 years, just to have a little bit longer term visibility so we don't get to year 5 and drop off the edge of a cliff without any idea of what's coming next. So that financial plan then leads into phase 2, which is cost of service analysis. So under Proposition 218 in California, all rates for utilities are required to be based on the cost of providing the service. They cannot exceed the cost of providing the service, and the rates paid by different categories of customer have to be proportionate to their use and the cost that they cause the systems to incur. So we conduct a cost of service analysis where we take all the costs of operating utilities and we bucket those up into the different customer groups based on usage profiles, looking at your actual billing and demand data. And then that leads into phase 3, which is what do the rates need to be in order to collect the revenue necessary to meet all those financial objectives. So building on that cost of service analysis, we develop a structure of rates that ultimately ensures that we're able to have rates that recover the cost proportionately in compliance with Proposition 218 based on customers' demand profiles and usage profiles. So let's take a look at water first, and we call this kind of the status quo projection. What if we did nothing? What, with the financial plan that we know, the revenue needs that we know we have over the 5 years, and the rates not changing, what would that look like? So the top graph here compares revenues to expenditures. The revenues are the dark blue bars, the expenditures are the light blue bars. And you can see in the first couple years, the revenues are more than expenditures, but the gap is narrowing. And then starting in year 4, the expenditures are more than the revenues, and you see that solid black line, which indicates your net result, swinging negative in year 4 and then continuing to get more negative in year 5. And that would continue over years 6 through 10 if we were to project that out even further. So not a situation that you want to have going forward. And you can see on the bottom left the impact that that has on the amount of cash that the city is holding in reserve. That solid black line is the city's goal of maintaining 180 days or half a year's cash in reserve, and that's about $6.3 million is that amount. Starting out in year 1, we're already below that target, and we're at about 5.1 million, and then you can see the balance declines over the 5-year period till it's negative in year 4 and even more negative in year 5. So again, not an optimum situation for meeting the financial needs of the city and staying in compliance with the city's policy of having that 180 days cash in reserve. For the sewer utility, the picture looks similar. First 2 years, looking at the top graph, the first 2 years you see the revenues are a little bit more than expenditures each year, so that's good, but then by year 3 and 4 that starts to swing the other way. That solid black line indicating net results, again, swings negative by year 4. And then similarly on the bottom left, you see, similar to water, the cash balance declining. We have a nice balance to start with, about 8.8 million. By year 5, that's exhausted. The goal, again, is to have 180 days of operating costs held in reserve. That's about $1.7 million. And by year 5, that's mostly exhausted. So, and in both of those cases, the fund balance is declining due to capital project spending, and primarily because of capital project spending. On a strictly operating basis, the picture would look not better, or not completely better. We still would need some changes, but not nearly to the extent needed to make sure we can take care of all these capital projects. So here's a list of the different capital projects for water, and you can see predominantly those are rehabilitation and replacement projects for water mains. These aren't expansion projects. These aren't being done to serve new development coming into the city or new properties or anything like that. These are strictly going out and replacing pipelines that through the years have degraded. They've been in the ground a long time, and they need to be upgraded to make sure, again, that they stay intact and the system integrity is maintained. So you see that each year, the list of projects, it's about $12.7 million over the 5-year period. And you know, again, that's being funded from the rate revenue. There's not any debt associated with this. Is all being funded from the utility rates. Sewer, the similar description, fewer projects, and the dollar amount isn't quite as high, but they are just rehabilitation projects going out and replacing sewer mains and lift stations. So again, these are facilities that are already in the ground that are just aging and degrading through use and time, and not being added to the system to serve any new development or anything like that. So it's about $10 million over the 5-year period, and again, mostly sewer main projects, as you can see there in the descriptions. Excuse me. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what the 5-year plan of water and sewer rates looks like. We'll look at a typical, what we call typical bill, because it's based on your actual statistics of a customer using 800 cubic feet of water per month. We'll look at what the combined water and sewer bill looks like at different levels of flow, so you can get an idea of that. Compare those rates with some of your neighbors, and then finally revisit those financial metrics that we just looked at with the recommended changes incorporated. So here is the rate table for the water rates. So you see it's made up of the fixed charge, what we call fixed charge or meter charge, which is a charge every customer pays based on the size of their meter, and that's the matrix of rates across the top there. You see the existing rates, and then the rates each year beginning in 2026 up through 2030. And then at the bottom you see what's called a volumetric rate, sometimes called a consumption rate. That's the amount that customers pay based on the amount of water that they use. And so the key change here is that the meter charges were recalibrated to comply with cost of service standards and be consistent with AWWA guidelines for meters, and they have a published best practices where the meter sizes, the meters are tested for the amount of flow that can be put through those meters, and they create a system of ratios, and their meter charges are increased as they get bigger to reflect the different size of meter and the amount of water and demand that can be placed on the system. So that's why those charges grow larger as the size of the meter increases. And then because of that change in the meters, the first year you see the volumetric rate stayed the same in the first year, so there's no change in the consumption rate the first year, and then it increments up each year after that. Here is the plan for sewer. So again, you see, a little simpler structure compared to water. There's no meter charge and volumetric charge. There's just a monthly fixed charge for all customers there at the top per sewage unit. And you see the existing rate and then the projected rate for each of the 5 years. There's about a $1.30 charge for the first year, and then the rates go up about 50-60 cents each year. After that first year was just kind of a catch-up adjustment to reflect the fact rates hadn't been adjusted since 2020. We're showing the EMWD charges below that just for informational purposes, that we did not look at the EMWD rates or do any work on those rates as part of our work with the city, but we wanted to have that information included so that customers understand the full, what they're going to see ultimately when they get a bill. So here is what a combined monthly bill for a customer looks like at different levels of flow. So starting on the left, it's a customer that uses 400 cubic feet of water, sometimes called 4 units of water. 100 cubic feet is a unit of water, so sometimes the term unit is used because 100 cubic feet is a standard unit for billing purposes. And then moving toward the right, you see 800, 1,000, 1,600, and 2,000 cubic feet increments there. So you see in each of those instances the existing bill compared to the proposed bill. Of course, the proposed bill does go up, and it's in the range of $2.16 up to $2.23 a month is the impact on a combined water and sewer bill for the customers at all those levels of usage. Slightly on the lower end of that range for the low usage customer, and then about 8 cents higher on the higher use customer. So. And here is just focusing in on the customer using only 800 cubic feet of water. You can see with the change over the whole 5-year period. So again, that first year, their bill goes up about $2.18. Then it goes up about $10 the second year, and then a little bit less each of the 3 years after that, about between $8 and $10 each of the last 3 years. And so that's, again, a combined bill for just the customer using the 800 cubic feet, what their bill change will look like over the whole 5-year period. And then here is the comparison of how the rates for Hemet, both existing and proposed, look in comparison to a wide range of your neighbors and cities that Some of them are not exact neighbors, but EMWD serves so much of the area here, we had to look a little bit farther to find some neighboring city comparisons. So you see the city stays right in its lane, doesn't jump above Vallecillos or go up any higher. The charge goes up about $2.16 like we talked about. Still stays just below that solid black line, which is the average of all the different municipal utilities that we looked at. That average was $125.30. So the city of Emmetsville is $123.23 with the changes, and so it stays just below that average. So these rates are all static. These are just one moment in time. We know many of these cities are going through rate studies or will go through rate studies. That's typical. Cities do increase rates every year, so this is just what the rates look like now. And I would expect that this chart would just kind of go up in lockstep with all of these agencies, including Hemet, increasing their charges each year as they go along. So going back to those metrics, those charts that we looked at the beginning, here is the chart for water. So now you can see in the top the dark blue bars higher than the light blue bars, and the black line indicating your net results staying positive each of those 5 years. And you see the targeted cash balance staying right at the 180-day mark, except for year 2. There's a huge chunk of capital being done in year 2. You may remember that previous table. There's about $4.5 million of capital just in that 1 year. So we let the balance drop that 1 year, knowing that it's going to pick back up the next year and be right back at the target level. For sewer, a little bit different picture. The top looks similar. We've got revenues exceeding expenditures each year, and the solid black line showing positive for the net results and continuing nice and stable. And that large capital balance we started with being spent down slowly over that 5-year period, so that just after the 5-year period, it gets closer down to the 180 days. We wanted to make sure, again, that we don't spend that all down, and wanted to make sure that the utility's left in good shape. So when the next rate cycle comes around, starting on solid ground. So finally, the last discussion here will be about drought rates. So as part of our work with the city, we were asked to develop a system of drought rates. And so what a drought rate is the city, under state legislation, water suppliers are required to plan for different levels of drought and have that as part of their drought ordinance. And you can see the city's drought ordinance is in the municipal code there under Chapter 82, if anybody is interested in looking that up, Chapter 82, Article 3. And so drought rates can be implemented by the city manager under usage or demand, where demand, or I should say water shortage problems exist due to system problems, water shortages, system failures, things like that. Or the governor or the state water board can declare a drought, based on severe drought conditions throughout the state. In any of these situations, the drought ordinance would be enacted at the appropriate level, depending on the amount of reduction that's necessary. And so a drought rate is necessary because under these conditions, now the city is going to be selling less water. The city will also have some reduced costs because the cost of producing water will go down slightly as well. And so the rates kind of need to be recalibrated to adjust to this unique situation. So it allows the city to make sure it's able to still recover the cost of operating the utility when demand goes down as a result of the drought ordinance being enacted. It only impacts the volume rate or the consumption rate, so the base charge remains the same. Only the volume rate changes, so it only changes based on the amount of water used. And it does cause the rate per unit of water to go up slightly because the costs don't go down equivalent to the amount of demand reduction. So some of those costs still have to be incurred. There's still personnel. There's still the plant has to be operated and things like that. But we did reduce all of the costs that were appropriate based on anticipated reduction in demand under the drought. And then finally, as I said, the water fixed charges would stay the same. So here's what that table of rates looks like. So the top line there is the standard volumetric rate. That's the same $4.79 that we looked at when we looked at the table of water rates. The first column A there is the total cost related to volumetric water use. The second column B is the number of water units that are sold. So about $7.6 million in costs spread across almost 1.6 million units of water, and that's how you calculate that $4.79. And you can see through each stage of the drought and each of those corresponding reductions in demand, you see the costs do go down somewhat, but the number of billable water units sold goes down even more. So that's why you see that rate per CCF goes up through each of those 5 stages of the drought. So again, these rates would only be enacted. They'd have to be enacted by the city manager under the drought ordinance, and that would be done, publicly. So there would be notice of this happening, and only under, a declared drought situation. And this is the table that shows what those rates look like out over the whole 5-year period. So these rates, just like the other water rates, would go up slightly each year, so that if in any year they would be enacted, they would be the rates in that year corresponding. So finally, just to wrap up, kind of a summary of the steps that have gotten us to this point and the next step. We presented preliminary results to the Planning Commission back in the first week of December, and then presented the results to you all a week later at the council meeting. At that meeting, you authorized the public hearing date for tonight and authorized us to mail notices to property owners and customers, informing them about the public hearing. Those notices were mailed December 22nd, and so we're here this evening. You will open up and conduct the public hearing. There will be a portion of that public hearing where folks can come forward and ask questions and provide their feedback and any comments that they might have. Once the public comment portion of the public hearing is closed, you'll tabulate the written protest, or the city clerk will tabulate the written protests. Assuming there is no majority written protest, then you will have the discretion to move forward to adopt rates. You're not required to do that if there's no majority protest. However, if there is a majority protest, then you can take no further action, and the process would stop. We sent out 12,585 notices to property owners. There were also an additional 4,389 notices sent to customers or occupants, tenants, folks who are renters, as required under Prop 218. Only one protest can be submitted per property, so either a property owner or a tenant can submit a protest, but only one gets counted per property. So in order for a majority protest to exist, we'd have to have 6,293 submitted written protests. And so again, once the public hearing is concluded, you'll tabulate those, and then you'll be able to discuss and deliberate and move forward at your discretion. That concludes my presentation, so I'm obviously available to answer any questions, either now or after you discuss. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions from, no questions down the line?
No.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any registered speakers for or against this project?
Mayor, there are no registered speakers, but I will note at this time that we did receive 4 written protests in opposition for the project.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Any questions now?
No.
Nope. Hearing none, then can I have a motion to approve this item?
I will move to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hamlet, California, approving the water and sewer rate schedule to be implemented from March 1st, 2026 through January 1st, 2030.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. City Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Lodge. I will do roll call. Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Lodge?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Males?
Yes.
Mayor Krupa?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to our next public hearing item, presentation on agenda item 21.B. 21B.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and the community. My name is Monique Alanis-Flater, Community Development Director. Tonight, we are going to review the repeal and replacement of our current zoning ordinance concerning accessory dwelling units. In recent years, the California legislature has approved and the governor signed into law a number of bills that impose limits on local authority to regulate ADUs and JADUs. And on October 8th, 2025, a letter was received by the Department of Housing and Community Development regarding the status of the city's adopted ADU ordinance, which was last updated in 2021. The letter from HCD indicated that if an ordinance, an existing ordinance fails to meet the requirements of state ADU law, the ordinance is null and void, and the local jurisdiction must apply the standards set forth in state law until it adopts an ordinance to comply with state law. As such, HCD recommended that the city either repeal or amend the current ordinance to provide clarity for ADU applicants who may otherwise rely on outdated ordinances. Due to the significant number of amendments to the state law of our existing ordinance, a repeal restatement of Chapter 90, Article 11, Section 90-321 is proposed, including the provision of newly adopted state housing laws that go into effect on January 1st, 2026. On January 6, 2026, following a state-mandated 20-day advance public hearing, the Planning Commission voted to adopt resolution recommending approval of the zoning ordinance amendment to the City Council, subject to the findings outlined in the Hemet Municipal Code, also included in the staff report. Additionally, the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission found that the ordinance is consistent with the 2017 Hemet Ryan Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. So accessory dwelling units essentially are units that are attached or detached. They're residential dwelling units which provide complete independent living facilities for one or more persons and are located on a lot with a proposed or existing primary residence. It shall include permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation on the same parcel as a single-family or multifamily dwelling. An ADU also includes the following: an efficiency unit, which is the minimum for an efficiency unit is 150 square feet for no more than 2 persons, and should include partial kitchen and bathroom facilities, as well as a manufactured home. A junior accessory dwelling unit means an accessory dwelling unit that has no more than 500 square feet in size and is contained entirely within the single-family residence. It includes its own separate sanitation facilities, kitchen, or shared sanitation facilities with the existing or proposed single-family residence. So since 2016, state ADU law has continued to evolve to further lower the barriers to development of more affordable housing, and as the legislature works to address the housing crisis across the state of California. These laws change. HCD's goals is to ensure consistency and clarity in the application of these laws through education, technical assistance, and enforcement. Some of the key benefits as provided by HCD is that ADUs are a cost-effective type of construction, which significantly reduces the cost than homes in multifamily and infill buildings, as well as extends families to near one another, that families may live near one another while maintaining privacy. ADUs give homeowners the flexibility to share independent living areas with family members and others, allowing seniors to age in place as they require more care. Some of the key changes of this of the legislation that have been included with this ordinance are the inclusion of a 15-day completeness determination upon receipt of an application for an accessory dwelling unit. There are also new exemptions. There is a school fee exemption for impact fees for ADUs and JADUs of less than 500 square feet. There's a school fee exemption. There's an impact fee for development fees. The impact fee exemption for ADUs, which has been in place for quite some time, but if you have an ADU that is less than or up to 750 square feet, the impact fees are exempt. The other key changes include parking exemptions. The owner occupancy is not required for a JADU as long as they have separate sanitation facilities. There are requirements, or the city can require separate addressing to facilitate emergency response. There is a sunset on the owner occupancy requirement that was previously required by state law. Fire sprinklers are only required if the sprinklers are required in the primary residence. And the new legislation also prohibits subjective design standards from being applied when reviewing the ADU applications. And then lastly, I did want to mention there is an amnesty for legalization of unpermitted ADUs. The actual text amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. It is categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA and the California Public Resources Code section 21080.17, which is as defined by government code, as well as the CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, in that there is no certainty and no possibility that proposed ordinance would have a significant effect on the environment. On January 30th, a notice of public hearing was published in the Press Enterprise prior to the holding of the City Council public hearing. With that, it is respectfully recommended that the City Council find that the project is categorically exempt in accordance with CEQA and the California Public Resources Code, and adopt ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hemet, California, adopting ordinance Amendment 25-003, repealing and restating Chapter 90, Article 11, Section 90-321 of the Hemet Municipal Code regulating accessory dwelling units in accordance with state law. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I will now open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any registered speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one registered speaker. Do we have a Scott Garrett?
Mr. Garrett, will you come up to the microphone? Right here.
Oh, can I give that to you? So you can-
Sure. Give it to the City Clerk.
Thank you. My name is, or can I just wait till you guys have it in front of you?
You need to turn the microphone up. There you go.
Okay. This is a project that this is at Latham and Inez, and I've.
I can't hear you.
Get
Oh,
closer.
is that better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. This is a project that has been submitted for plan check at Latham and Inez on the northeast corner of Latham and Inez. The existing house, the single-story part of that picture that's in front of you exists. The proposed addition is the second story to the house, which would be an additional bedroom and additional bathroom. And then the ADU is the in back above the garage. The problem I'm running into, and I'm seeking your help, is that the state ordinance says that that a second story can be no higher than 16 feet, 18 feet with certain provisions, and 20 feet with other provisions. I can't build this second story and get under 20 feet. If I attach this to the house, I can build it. My setbacks in the rear and on the side are conventional. I'm not encroaching. The ADU ordinance allows for you to go down to 4 feet on the side and the back. I'm not doing that. I'm at 10 feet on the back and 5 feet on the, or 10 feet on the, yeah, and 5 feet on the side. And those are conventional numbers, so that I could build that. All I'd have to do is attach this. And what I'm asking is that maybe the planning director could have discretion that if a proposed ADU meets conventional setbacks, rear and side setbacks, that it can be built even if it's detached. Because like I say, I could attach this and I can build it. But because it's detached, I'm running into a problem. And I would like to point out that the ADU, the numbers, the 16, 18, and 20 feet are floors and not ceilings, so that the state is saying, if I came in and said I want to do something that's 16 feet or 18, again, there's different provisions, that the city couldn't deny it. But that's the floor. The ceiling, there are cities that allow for compatible, if what you're proposing is compatible with what's on the site or can be built normally, then it can be approved, or they allow it to be approved. So that's all I'm asking, is perhaps that maybe the planning director could get discretion that if the setbacks are conventional and the only thing that distinguish it, that would deny it, is that it's detached instead of attached, that possibly the projects could get approved. Because I would like to do this, do detached ADUs on other projects that I'm working on, and I'm going to run into the same problem. So that's what I'm asking for, and I appreciate your help. And if you have any questions, I wanted to provide you a picture, and I want you to know that like I say, this is in for approval, and it's not a conceptual thing. It's that, I'm ready.
Mr. Garrett, your time is up.
Thank you.
Next speaker?
And that was our last
Oh,
speaker.
that was the only one? Is there anyone online that wants to speak?
No further speakers.
Okay. So would you like to reply to that, Monique?
Yes, it's actually it's an opportunity for me just to discuss a section of the code that I was, after further review, was going to recommend that the council strike regarding the height requirements for a detached ADU. So yes, the state does allow us to increase. The council could allow an increase in height for a detached. Even going up to a second floor, other cities do allow two-story under ADU above the garage. However, we have also a competing ordinance that talks about privacy for second floor adjoining residential properties where there could be privacy issues depending on how what that setback is, and which is that ordinance established a no-build easement or a no-build area that would apply. So this is a unique case where we would have to come back to the council to really study the issue to see how we would allow two-story detached ADUs up to 25 feet in height. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so legally, how do we do this? Do I close the public hearing and then have this discussion?
Yes, if we have no
Okay.
other public speakers, close the public hearing.
We're closing the public hearing, we got that done. So,
Council discussion.
council discussion, yes. Do you guys have any questions, or we can go through and answer this question first?
First of all, the privacy question is something very important, because there are other people around other than trying to get as many people on one lot as possible. So I think we need to be sensitive to that. The other thing is authority to designate areas, number 4, which is page 9 to 38. What is, because we may designate areas within our jurisdiction where ADUs may be permitted. I'm concerned about homes, high-density homes, homes that are in high fire zone, and that is the impact of this ancillary dwelling being, impeding traffic flow or public safety, i.e. if you've got a fire department that's needing to come in or some evacuations. So do we have that map?
Yes, so this provision was added in accordance with government code. We did look at that question ahead of time. Thank you. Government code 66314 does add this provision. However, if should the city wish to, we put this as a safeguard, should the city want to come back and look at and explore locations where it may not be appropriate to have ADUs, we could come back, but we are subject to, by state law, to prepare findings for that. So this is a safeguard in place that
Sure.
we could look at in the future.
Sure. I just feel like we are doing a lot of ADUs, which is great, but it may not necessarily be good in that part of the city. And I do think we need to look at that. It just can't be willy-nilly, especially if we've got a couple of sections in our city that have high fire zones. And if you've got compact people in there and you add even, what are you gonna say, 2, and you have 10 of them in a subdivision, that's a lot of extra people. And it's their safety that I'm worried about. My 2 cents, thank you, Mayor.
So I just need some clarification. We have a ordinance in place for sightline. Is that what we're gonna call it, second story? And
We do. We
invasion
have
of privacy, whatever. Yeah. Is that kind of like
We,
a peeping
we
Tom
do
built?
have we do have a second story, or we have an ordinance in place that limits where you can, and the setback and your building plane area where you would need to be set back so many feet away. You need to provide a certain type of screening in a manner that provides when you're joining another single-family neighborhood that's been there for quite some time. So we want to be sensitive, especially with new development that's coming forward. We want to
Sure.
be sensitive to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want anybody building a second story next to me just so they can look in my backyard. It's just, and there's one more, and I'll get back to you on that one.
I'd like to say something if I can. Okay. I like this house. Now, I'm a person that I feel if you own a property, you should be able to do what you want with it. I'm looking at all the background here. It looks like it's close to a park, or I don't even see houses behind this house. Is there houses behind it? There are houses, okay, because it looks like a lot of trees and everything. I know the laws have changed on ADUs, state laws and their requirements. And I know that our changes have to be made in order to adapt to what the state has already put in force. And, you know, it's hard for me to say because this is one of the reasons people don't want to be annexed, because they're in the county, and in the county you can do a lot. You know, there's things you can do that you can't do in a city. And if we limit people from doing certain things, even if it's gonna look nice and it's gonna be you know, something that's gonna turn this property into something really nice, and we tell them, no, you can't do it, and you know, but yet if this was in the county, they would probably be able to do it, you know, without any problems. So, you know, I'm for whatever we can for property owners. If they wanna build, let them build, so. That's just me.
Thank you. Comments, Jackie?
When I was reading this agenda item, I was talking to the city manager, and I said, you know, this is a great thing if it's done correctly for the people of Hemet, because a lot of the lots are bigger in town and they have extra space. And I know that a lot of people are struggling financially, and some people can't afford to build an addition or buy a unit, but for those that are just getting by, you know, maybe they're living day to day and they need some extra income or some savings. I think it's a great thing, and I think we should publicize it more, that it's available for people, because I think it could really help our economy. So that's what I was looking at when I was reading this, so.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I have a question on how we bring this forward. Can we approve this tonight and then bring an amendment or a change to the ordinance? Or how do we do this in light of the question that was brought up and needs to be looked at.
I mean, I think we might be able to fix it. It sounds like the community development director has a fix in mind. I'm looking at C15, and I think it's probably B. Monique, is that correct?
Yes.
So what number does that need to be consistent with, I guess, just the standard residential height, objective standard for
Yes.
residents in the single-family zones?
Well, it would be consistent for both single-family and multifamily in accordance with A. The 25 feet, and this is where when we wrote this into it, actually, when you're in a multifamily zone, you can add ADUs onto the actual multifamily structure
Right, and
up
be
to
the
the height of the zone. So the height is, where it should be is in accordance with A, which would be 16 feet, a maximum of 18 feet if you're within a half mile of public transit. And additional 2 feet would be allowed to accommodate a roof pitch on an ADU to align with the roof pitch. So essentially 20 feet, so in accordance with A and C.
Monique, just to ask a question on that, what if instead of having specific height standards for ADUs, what if we simply required ADUs to be within the objective height standard for the zone that they're in, regardless of how many stories they were? So if you could build a single-family home that high, why not be able to build a detached ADU to that height? That would seem to
Well,
simplify the process and
The
get people where they're
development
going.
standards set forth for ADUs is a little bit different, and it's more complex because they're allowed to have 4-foot side and rear setbacks. And that's just by state law. So the recommended height, maximum allowed height, is by state law is this 16 feet at least, and then to allow for at least 18 feet, because many cities have allowed, such as the City of Hemet, have allowed ADUs up to a maximum of 16 feet in height historically. That's usually the appropriate height when you're in the single-family residential area. That's an accessory structure, right, to the primary. So it's limiting size as well as the height.
So I think to the speaker's question then, you know, when we're dealing with the side and rear setback and the height, we're dealing with that plane that we dealt with on the original
Yes.
two-story ordinance. So could we add an additional provision? I'm trying to sort of get
Yes.
the council where they
Yes.
want to go tonight. Could we add a provision that if the detached ADU complies with the standard setbacks for that zone, then it can be it can also be the standard height? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you're not relying on the 4-foot setback, but you're going to the standard setback?
Yes, however, based on the images that were, being provided tonight as an example, those setbacks would be not in compliance with, if we're going to allow, as long as it meets the standard setback for the zone and it's 25 feet, I'm not sure that's would be the intent of.
I'm not trying to get a particular project, I'm trying to address the issue. Mayor, I think that we probably need some more time with staff. If the council wants to direct us to address that issue, I think we're gonna have to pull out a protractor and do a little bit of math, similar to what we did with the backyard second-story ordinance. I don't think we're gonna be able to do it from the dais tonight.
Well, and that's, it's great to make all these changes and come into guidance with state law and have this rewritten, but we have to deal with reality of our community, and maybe we do need to look at this a little bit more, so.
Yeah, we can look at it, we can see if we can get the objective standards, and then obviously we can meet with this project applicant to see if that would solve
See
the
if that
issue
would
he's
solve it,
dealing with.
and if it doesn't, then,
But you could continue the public hearing to the next meeting, we should have it fixed by then.
okay. Okay with all of you? I see.
That's
I
okay
see
with
nodding
me.
heads. Okay, so we will continue this item, which is 21B, is that enough time to the next meeting in March? Or, oh, wait a minute, we're at the beginning of February, aren't we?
February 24th.
February 24th. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, moving on to receive and file, item number 22, the Hemet warrants of January 15 and January 22, and periodic payroll payments. Any questions, comments that council has?
I have none.
No.
None? Okay, seeing none, that is a receive and file. Moving on to the consent calendar. We have a request, no, we don't. Any items council wants to pull?
23B?
I'm sorry, which one?
23B.
B?
B as in boy.
Okay. There were a couple corrections to the December 9th minutes that have already been corrected, and those were only to who adjourned the meeting and who approved one item. So it was just a change in names for council. Yeah, I don't have anything there. So I'd entertain a motion to approve 23A and C.
I'll second it.
No, I'm entertaining the
Oh,
motion first.
I'm sorry. I thought you were motioning it. Okay.
Okay, we have a
I'll
motion by
Yeah.
Lodge
I'll second.
and Males.
Second by Joe.
Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion by Councilmember Lodge, second by Mayor Pro Tem Males. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Lodge,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Males,
Yes.
Mayor Krupa.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 to approve the consent calendar, with the exception of item 23B.
We will question on, well, let's have a presentation on 23B.
Yeah,
And then-
that's kind
because
of
we
what
do
I
have
wanted.
public comment on this item.
Yeah.
And I forgot to ask, did we have public comment on A or C?
We did not have public comment on items A and C, but we do have public comment for item B.
Okay. Then can we have a staff presentation on this, please?
I will provide a quick presentation for you. The Juan Batista de Anza National Historic Trail has been documented in the National Park Service under the U.S. Department of Interior. There's an impressive report that's attached to this staff report that identifies this historic trail that is named after an expedition in the 1775-1776 era that traveled through the valley and toward Anza. And so tonight, the mayor has requested that the city council consider adoption of a resolution that would support and encourage other public agencies to support the preservation and conservation of the Juan Batista de Anza National Historic Trail.
All right, thank you very much. Let's have public hearing comments on this item, please.
Thank you. We'll call the first speaker. Do we have a Debbie Green? Debbie Green, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. Let me get to the top. The Juan Batista de Anza Trail will become a source of community pride and identity. It highlights the natural beauty and uniqueness of the area and gives residents something meaningful to rally around. A recognized trail often strengthens social connections as people work together to maintain, protect, and promote it. This shared responsibility builds a stronger, more united community. National trails also help promote healthier lifestyles. They encourage outdoor activities, general well-being, mental health, good for everybody. In addition, the trails provide educational opportunities. Schools and communities can use them as outdoor classrooms to learn about local ecosystems, wildlife, history, and environmental stewardship. Young people in particular gain hands-on experience that deepens their understanding of conservation and sustainability. Finally, recognized trails help preserve cultural and historical heritage. They may highlight indigenous pathways, historic roots, and important local stories, strengthening connections between the past and the present. In conclusion, recognizing the Juan Batista de Anza Trail fosters community pride, promotes health and education, protects the environment, preserves cultural heritage, creating lasting benefits for everyone. Many groups in our community are already in the process of adopting the resolution, including local nonprofits, San Jacinto Museum, Estadio Mansion, Hemet Jeep Club, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And the next speaker that we have is going to be for Matt McPherson. 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Preservation of the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail. I want to begin with something I learned only recently, something I think may surprise many people in this room. Bautista Canyon is not named after Juan Bautista de Anza. Did you know that? It's named after, I'm told by Stephen Leck at the Press Enterprise presentation, was named after Chief San Juan Bautista of the Paula people. The Paula of Native Americans from what is now the Fallbrook area just south of Temecula, not after the Spanish explorer whose expedition passed through this valley. That distinction matters. It also highlights a broader issue throughout this region. Names like Bautista and de Anza are often conflated or misunderstood. For example, San Jacinto has de Anza Elementary, while Hemet Unified has Bautista Creek Elementary, yet Bautista Creek itself is named after the Paula chief, not Juan Bautista de Anza. Over time, these overlapping names have created confusion rather than historical clarity. And that confusion reinforces the point I'm here to make tonight. Because despite the fact that Juan Bautista de Anza physically traveled through the San Jacinto Valley, we do not have a clearly recognized canyon, road, or protected landmark that formally honors this actual route through this land. And it was as famous or more than the Lewis and Clark expedition. As far as a land route, it went as, as dangerous, as treacherous as the Lewis and Clark, but through the southern kind of desert, more arid. In 1775, 1776, as Lieutenant Colonel of Spain, he led one of the most significant overland expeditions in the history of the American West. His mission was unprecedented to establish a reliable land route from Sonora, Mexico across the desert to Alta California and to secure the San Francisco Bay Area. This was not a small scouting party. More than 240 soldiers, women, and children traveled over 1,200 miles through deserts, mountains, and unknown terrain. The expedition included people of Spanish, African, and indigenous ancestry, making it one of the most diverse founding journeys in early California history. They began near the Tubac Presidio in present-day Arizona, crossed the Colorado River near Yuma, where they encountered the Quechan people. They moved north and west through the desert corridors up through Coyote Canyon, where my family homesteaded, Tripp Flats and Reed Valley in 1864, and down into what we now know as the San Jacinto Valley, before continuing to the coast. This valley was not incidental. It was part of a deliberate and strategic route. The expedition reached the San Francisco Bay Area in the spring of 1776, leading directly to the establishment of the Presidio of San Francisco. At the same time, we're signing the Declaration of Independence on the other side of the country. They had just made this expedition. Mission Dolores was also established. Because of this success, Spain proved that California could be supplied by land, not just by sea, fundamentally changing the course of the state's history. And there's a lot of English ships going back and forth around California, so they were nervous and wanted to make sure they could establish it. Today, this journey is recognized as the San Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail, a federally designated trail stretching from Arizona to San Francisco. And yet here in Hemet, where the history passed through, we're considering building over it. Once a
Mr.
historic
McPherson,
trail is erased, it
your
cannot
time
be
has
reclaimed.
concluded.
Please make this a historic trail. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much, Matt. Any other speakers? One more?
Yes, we have 3 more speakers.
Oh,
The
okay.
next speaker is going to be for Bella Sol. 3 minutes.
Somebody forgot their phone. Anybody? Look.
Matt's phone?
All right, good evening. I'm obviously here to speak on this. I'm a bit concerned. Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. I'm happy to hear about, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
I am going to say I'm an avid outdoors person, love nature, love hiking, hiked all the 6 packs of peaks in Southern California. So I totally get the trail and the outdoors and all that. I'm just speaking on this because I'm concerned that 2 weeks ago, the council received a history lesson on this trail. And then in that 2 weeks, there's been a turnaround for a resolution with a beautiful staff report, 40-some page report from the National Park Services. However, and this is coming, the history lesson was from residents that were outside of Hemet, which we were previously told that outside Hemet, unincorporated voices don't matter. And shuffleboard people have been in here for a few months now and have not, even tonight, have still not received an answer. Yet, 2-week turnaround to a resolution for this trail. So what I'm here to really kind of express or question, hopefully someday get an answer, what is the motive? Where's the transparency? Why so much attention to this now? Fairview in Florida, there's already a sign that says auto route this way for the Juan Bautista Trail. So I think McPherson just mentioned it. You don't want to develop over it. So let's be transparent with us to see what is the motive behind this. If you're trying to get this, I don't know. I would just love for one moment for the city to communicate their intentions. Because again, 2-week turnaround. The residents, city residents, right here, along with those who continuously show up to discuss shuffleboards, seem to not get an answer. But thank you, City Manager, for providing a presentation. Do the residents get this? Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Yes, Mayor. The next speaker is going to be Jeremiah Hertridge, I think it is. Jeremiah? Sorry. 3 minutes.
Hello, City Council members. As a resident of the city of Hemet, growing up in the city of Hemet, being a Boy Scout in the city of Hemet, I was taught to receive something called citizenship in the community. It's part of a badge that you receive as a young man, and then also you do citizenship in the nation and citizenship in the world. The concept behind that is that individuals should take ownership of the community in which they are in. When we take ownership of the community in which we are in, we're able to develop a foundation for those who are yet to come. When we do that, we make sure that the future looks bright for those around us. Now, I get it and I understand that there are a lot of needs in our community. There's a lot of needs in our nation. One of the things, though, that I want to make sure that my kids understand is the history of the valley in which we have. I am very well aware that we have many amazing things with the Ramona Bowl, shuffleboard. I mean, I just learned about that actually 2 weeks ago when they were talking about it and listening in on it, how amazing that is. At the same time, there are historical sites that are much long and much older than that of what's existing right now. And to make sure that our children understand the sacrifices of those individuals in order to make our lives be where we are today, let's face it, how many of us would actually be here if somebody didn't walk through? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Alrighty,
Any
and
other-
We have one more speaker. We have an Andrew Kotiak, and he does have a donation of time. Do we have a Catherine Romrell here? Thank you. 6 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. Thank you for presenting this evening to hear. This is vitally important. As longtime residents and the historical different age groups we have in our community, this is something that's vital, and there's been multiple different generations that have tried to do exactly what you're taking the step to do tonight. In dealing with the San Jacinto Museum, we discovered that there's a folder full of congressional efforts decades ago to accomplish this. We're actually going through it, we're getting updates. Our past supervisors had been involved with that. We're digging into that as well with their efforts to retain this and protect this. And I think that's one thing that your leadership has brought out. You have identified the San Jacinto Valley asset map. I was at those meetings. I participated along with a lot of the public items, and the trail was brought up that evening, and it made it on your map weeks ago. It wasn't something that was requested. It was something that the community had brought up and you had put on this map as well. What's significant about Hemet and your historian is that we have an identity and we have assets to protect and conserve. Unlike a lot of the new cities around us that are really new, we're not. This valley has been here a very long time, and just like this thoroughfare, it's been a part of the Santa Fe depot, right? The original train paths, the stagecoach trails, Native American trade routes, Spanish trade routes, Mexican trade routes. This valley's significance for use and trade and trails of California history is utterly significant. And we're a part of that, but this trail hasn't been protected and conserved. And as you can see with the federal guidelines in the 300 miles that they've preserved, it's a quality of life for the community, right? It's protecting who we are, but it's also a way for not only our current generations to live here, but the new people that will move here to enjoy the beauty of this community, to enjoy the natural wildlife that's out there, to get outdoors and enjoy. It could be a center point for tourism, for biking, and also for education about who we are and what we are, which is so different than so many other communities around us, right? Some people have wine country or outlets. We have California history, and your steps forward to step forward and to signify that this needs to be protected is urgent, because we have massive developments around the area that doesn't recognize it. The county doesn't really recognize it in the development plans, and they need to. You can see the federal legislation of why they need to. And instead of developers plowing homes over this, this is going to be something that's protected, and you're taking leadership in doing that. So thank you for that. We'll keep you updated with what we find along the way. In our advocacy, many groups have this on their agenda. This is something that is a groundswell, much like the 79 organizations and people across the valley and the area are unifying to support this and this effort. So thank you for caring and protecting the beautiful assets that we have here in the valley for our residents.
Thank you. No further questions. Okay, I'll turn it back to council members. Who wants to talk first?
I would like to. I was a Girl Scout that was back there. There was a plaque at one time, so we acknowledged it at some time. Here's the deal. We have a little historical gem that's sitting there, whether we knew about it or not. We don't get consulted when another jurisdiction wants to put homes or put a bunch of roads through. This is history. I'm a history major. I have a BA in history. BA means probably nothing to a lot of people, but it does mean that I value history, and I value where I came from, and I came from here. I desperately do not want to see a bunch of homes and this trail to go away. If those homes are going to go in, it needs to be around it for all of us to share. I have no conspiracy on this. I have no ulterior motive. I just want to see us have a voice in a sphere of influence that is historically very, very important to this valley. We need to thank those people that did that. They went all the way up to San Francisco. There's a whole culture. They went through all the missions. This is education, folks. I don't think we need to go out and, break the Berlin Wall over it, but I do think we need to at least acknowledge, so that it's in a timely manner, so that homes don't wreck. It'd be really nice if we still had that old hotel downtown, Hemet Elementary. There are a lot of jewels here. So that's my only reason I wanted to pull it, was because I wanted personally to value something here in our valley and appreciate it. No ulterior motive, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment.
No, nothing here.
No? No? Nothing from you?
Come on,
Okay. Sorry about that. I want to thank all the speakers on this item, and I think it's extremely important that we pass this resolution tonight and also make sure that the county is extremely aware that we have this trail in our backyard, so to speak, and that is very, very important to preserve it. And if development comes in, it has to be acknowledged, it has to be maintained, and it has to be preserved. So with that, if there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hemet, California, in support of preserving and conserving the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll do roll call. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Males, second by Councilmember Peterson. Do we have Councilmember Clark?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Lodge?
Indubitably.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Males?
Yes.
Mayor Krupa?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. We will move on now to the discussion action items. And there is a request by the Women's Club to continue 24A to the next meeting. And we'll move on to, do I need to say anything else?
Nope.
Nope, that's it? Okay. We'll move on to 24B and have a staff report on 24B.
Sorry, Mayor, I was just adjusting my microphone in preparation for being called on. Stephen Graham Pacifico, your city attorney. Speaking of turning around resolutions quickly,
Yes.
here is a resolution that was requested at the last city council meeting we've put together. It would call for a special municipal election on June 2nd, 2026. That is the date of the statewide primary. So it is a regular municipal election that we can consolidate this election with the election that's being run statewide, and it would be consolidated with the county of Riverside. The election, if the council adopted this resolution, would ask our residents 3 questions. I know that those 3 questions can appear a little confusing, but those are the 3 questions we are required to ask by law and the way we are required to ask them. I'll go through exactly how it all work through the presentation. But fundamentally, what it would change if that election succeeded in June, we would move from a current system where the city council, typically in December, selects a mayor from the 5 council members that we have on an annual basis. It would move it to a system where the mayor is instead directly elected by the population of the city for a term of either 2 or 4 years. So like I said, there are 3 questions that we're required to ask. The first one is whether we should have an elected mayor at all. That requires a majority vote, 50% plus 1. If that passes, then we will have an elected mayor. If that does not receive a majority vote, then the rest of the questions don't matter because we will not be changing how the mayor is selected. The next ones we have to ask whether the mayoral term should be 2 years, yes or no, and then we have to ask whether the mayoral term should be 4 years, yes or no. Now you may ask yourself, why shouldn't we just ask them, should it be 2 years or 4 years? And I don't have an answer to that question, except to say that that's what the government code says we have to do. So if you want to know what happens if they both pass, that's addressed in the resolution. If both the 2-year and the 4-year term pass, whichever one gets the most affirmative votes would control. So, there is a method to the madness that the legislature has set up here, but that's essentially functionally how that will work. I did get some questions about, is this moving to a strong mayor form of government? So first, I wanted to say that, current municipal practice typically doesn't refer to a strong mayor form of government. We refer to a council manager form of government, where you have a city council as a legislative policy leading body and a professional city manager who is the executive head of the city who runs the day-to-day operations. The alternative to that is typically called the council mayor form of government. And so, or mayor-council form of government. And so you would see those in things like Los Angeles or San Diego. They are sometimes called a strong mayor form of government. And that's because the mayor in those cities acts as the chief executive officer of the city. They are less a member of the city council, and they are more like your city manager, hiring and firing department heads, running the day-to-day operations of the city. That would not happen if this was to go forward and it was to pass. The mayor would maintain a council manager form of government. The manager would remain the chief executive. The city manager would continue to be responsible for day-to-day operations. In fact, there are several cities in Riverside County that directly elect their mayors and maintain a healthy council manager form of government. You know, it's really a policy decision for the council and ultimately the electorate if you wanted to go down it. I'm not going to give you sort of pros and cons, but what I can tell you is that there are many cities in our county, in our region, and statewide that operate perfectly fine under both models. You would be moving to what is essentially a 4+1. So we would go from 5 council members, 5 districts, to 4 council members elected but in 4 districts, and 1 mayor who's elected at large from the entire city. It's structural, so you have that structural change in terms of number of districts, and then also just the simple question of who selects the mayor and how long is that person the mayor. The mayor is a new elective office that we don't currently have, separate from that of council member, but for most purposes continues to act as a member of the legislative body that we have up on the dais today. I spoke about going from 5 districts to 4. So redistricting would be a necessary part of the process. We went through this originally in 2016 when the city moved to districts. We did it again recently, I think at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, after the 2020 census. We're required to do it every 10 years, but if we're reducing the number of districts, we would have to go through that process again. Based on the number of public hearings that we're conducted to do, outreach that we're required to do, and just the work of the demographer, you know, my recommendation would be that the city, if it decided to move forward with having a June election on this issue, that the city council also begin the process of redistricting. And that ordinance, if it was passed, would be conditional upon the electorate moving forward. And the reason for that is we would likely not have the results of the June election until the end of June, beginning of July. That doesn't mean we don't know. Most people know on election night how things are going to go, or at least shortly thereafter. But we wouldn't get the certified results of the election until the end of June. The council meets at the beginning of July, when it can certify those election results. But the nomination period for the November election happens shortly thereafter. So people would need to know what district they're in and running for in advance. And with the 4 public hearings we're required to do, the time periods to adopt an ordinance, anyway, my recommendation would be that you would run those 2 things concurrently if you wanted to. I included a financial analysis. We did get an estimate from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters for a citywide election in June. It would be $101,800. That number usually comes down the closer you get to the election. As more and more agencies call for elections, the more agencies calling for election, the lower the per cost is. I wouldn't anticipate it coming down, you know, by half, but I think it would come down a bit. The demographer fees, we spent approximately $40,000 doing the redistricting process last time. In the staff report, I estimated $50,000 just based on increased costs overall post-COVID. However, I do think that there's probably some cost savings as well, especially if we went with the same demographer who already has. We would be using the same data set. We would be using the 2020 census data. So they already have done a significant amount of work, but we would have to go through and verify that we are maintaining communities and minority voting rights in a 4-district system as opposed to a 5-district system. I think that answers everything. I did, you know, want to put in there that in my research, I did note that there is a new statute, Government Code Section 34886, which the legislature adopted at the beginning of 2024, not that long ago. This allows for a streamlining process for cities to transition into district-based elections. A lot of cities over the past decade and a half were getting threatening letters under the California Voting Rights Act. I think the city may have gotten one in 2015, which is why it moved to districts in 2016. And that's really challenging for cities because, you know, you get those letters, but the council didn't have the authority to move to district-based elections. And so they would have to call for and incur the expense of an election. So the legislature adopted this government code section, which allows cities to transition to district-based elections without a vote of the people. You could just do it by ordinance. The plain language of that section says, notwithstanding any other law, a legislative body may adopt an ordinance without a vote of the people that would allow transition to district-based elections or district-based plus an elective mayor. No city in California, to my knowledge, has utilized that section to move from 5 districts to 4 districts plus a mayor. So we would be the first ones if you decided to go down that path. Obviously, as a city attorney, being the first would always make me nervous. I would much prefer that another city do that and see how it goes. However, I did feel obligated to at least point out that option appears available based on the potential cost savings of $100,000. That concludes my presentation on the legal side. I don't know if the city manager had anything he wanted to add to this before we turn it back over.
Okay. You want us to speak before we have public comment? Or do you want public comment first? Public comment. Let's go for public comment.
Alrighty, so the first speaker that we have is for Jean Fruenza. And Jean, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Yep, pull it down there. Green light.
There we go.
There.
Hi, everybody. So I wish I had known about your comment earlier. I would have spoken on a non-agenda item versus this agenda item, but here we go. We'll be seeing a lot of each other in the coming month, I assume. I haven't heard why we would go to a mayor and 4 council members. I haven't heard that in any comment. And that also fuels my thought, why would we lose a district and then segment into 4? And how would the voting process be? Does the mayor then have veto power as a mayor-council format? They typically veto power of ordinances and the likes of that. We're having 4 people, you need 2/3 to go against the mayor, that's 2.67 people. How does that work in our city? Again, it's like Bella Sewell said, an ordinance came up about taking the trail away 2 weeks ago. Mr. Lodge, Councilmember Lodge, excuse me, had brought this up, and 2 weeks later, it's before the public. It feels rushed to me. To me, it's big enough to have an elected mayor. I don't know the benefits to that. I do know San Bernardino's council's trying to take their mayor away. So a lot seems to happen when these things go on. While the council I know you just mentioned may redistrict without the public, good luck. I mean, people would not be happy with that here. I think you know that. You've asked we get engaged, and then you're not happy with us because we don't necessarily agree. We have a very competent city manager. I don't understand why we would need a mayor. What's the difference? If they're not a strong mayor, we'll use that term because that seems to be the term for the large cities that have that position where they are the executive. This person's not going to be the executive. And I would hope that, my goodness, they'd at least have the experience that Mark has, because when he did his fire presentation tonight, he was speaking right off the top of his head. I was impressed. I don't know that any of us could do that here, or any of you, excuse me. So I wonder why on earth, why are we doing this? I don't see the point. I'm concerned about veto power. I'm also concerned about consolidating power into one person. We all see what it's done across our state, what it's done in our country. So I worry that we don't have 5 people representing equal districts with equal vote and equal power. I do know that you all represent your district, you think of your district first, but then you as a group seem to meld together and come what's up best for the city. Now it's best for my district, where Councilmember Molly serves. And that makes sense to me. So I'd like to see that continue, and unless somebody could tell me why on earth we need it, why would we go through it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jean.
Mayor, I know we normally don't, interrupt the speakers, but.
Please do.
I did want, I had in my notes, no, you can sit down. Jean,
Well,
it's
thank you.
fine. I did have in my notes that under this, the mayor would not have veto power, and I just didn't get to that part of my speaking notes, so I wanted to clarify that.
Shame on you.
Yeah,
No.
I apologize for not including that. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next speaker.
The next speaker that we have is for Karen Stepp. And you have 3 minutes.
There we go. Good evening. It's been an interesting and informative night. I really appreciated the presentation by the fire department and the information from Mark. Very well done. I'm Karen Stepp. I've been a 12-year resident of Hemet. I wish I would have known that Mr. Graham was going to address some of the concerns that have been brought forward in the last 4 days. Because I would have adjusted my little piece here, which I wrote on Sunday with the help of my new BFF, ChatGPT. I do still have a few questions, though, that are kind of sticking in my craw. Don't know a lot about this process, but willing to learn. First, like Jean, I want to know why. Whose idea was this, and why do we have to restructure the entire city government at this point in time when we have very little money, not enough money to do some of the things that we need to do? And it's just been starting to feel like things have been going along pretty smoothly, at least until what I heard tonight. I'm concerned about the process. Why are we considering a major restructuring of our government before holding public workshops, study sessions, so residents can understand and weigh in on such a humongous proposal? I am a little bit worried about the Voting Rights Act because our boundaries have been they were redrawn based on the 2020 census, and that is so outdated with all the new housing developments, all the new city residents that have come in since 2020. It's no longer accurate. And then again, to go to 4 districts instead of 5 is going to make each district larger, harder to reach all the people. I'm just going to fall back on, I don't know why. I don't understand the reason for it. Finally, the cost. I know, Mr. Graham, you said again, you quoted about the $150,000, but I'm thinking of staff time, additional legal reviews, consultants, hearings, voter education. There's going to have to be an awful lot published before we make a change of this magnitude. So just to kind of summarize the fact that I've only known about this, most of us in this room have only known about this for the last 4 days, that, I think it's going to cost a lot
time has
more.
concluded.
And I don't feel like we've been as inclusive and transparent as we should have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
And the next speaker that we have is Judith McPherson. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council, and I apologize in advance because I talk in kind of scattered modality at times, so bear with me. That's what happens when you get really old. First of all, to begin with, I would like to announce, I know this is political, but it's not coming from there, so it's okay, that last night at our Riverside Republican Assembly, very handily endorsed Joe Mills for his run in Congressional District 25. Congratulations. And as before, I think the largest concern is making such a radical change. And with that, you know, as we are human, we seem to resist that kind of change. And so, you know, there's still a lot of questions. Think in the past, think how angry we all were about the median. Okay, remember before the median on Florida Avenue, on State Highway 74, you saw accidents on about every block? And probably there were 5 or 6 HPD units engaged in cleaning up accidents 24/7. That put more officers in the street to do what we really need them for. You don't see accidents on Florida Avenue hardly anymore. And I apologize to Mr. Graham if I missed some of what you said. I'm a visual learner. There was a lot of verbal, and I did not read the full report. But my first question is the timing. I think it's kind of a short window. I think the public needs some time to become educated as to the difference between the governance design proposed as opposed to what we have existing, a comparison of what a general law city is as opposed to a charter city. I know there's a lot of good information from the California League of Cities, a lot of good information there. And I think the public needs to become educated and have time to digest. And secondly, or I don't know if this is second or third, but I'm scattered. When we do get to elections, I would really love the city of Hemet to pursue looking into RCV, that is ranked choice voting. Palm Desert has adopted it. The state of Alaska is using it. It's more of coalition building. That if you have, like we see in the governor's race right now, I don't know how many candidates there are, but the top candidate is only around 13, 14, 15%, in which you rank your options on the ballot 1, 2, 3, 4, you toss out the lowest. So it could be that the person that wins could be the one that was the second place for 80% of the voters, rather than the first place that might have only had 15% in first. And there is an option
Ms.
on
McPherson,
the,
your time
oh,
is
I'm
completed.
sorry, am I out?
You're out of time. I'm so sorry.
Oh, dang, I just don't want you to vote tonight and take it away from the community on June 2.
Thank you, Judith.
Righty, and our final speaker, do we have a Kristen Mason? Yeah, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and honorable council members. Krista Mason, resident of District 4. I don't want to be repetitive tonight because I think the previous speakers have touched on a lot of the points that I have concerns about. I would like to ask the question as far as a public hearing. I know that there's 4 public hearings that are required for just the redistricting. Are we going to educate the public during those public hearings, or will there be separate an education period in which we can learn about what we're voting on? I'm concerned about that. I know that City Attorney, thank you for providing more information on what we would be moving to, but I have the same question. Why are we doing this so hastily? Why are we doing it now? Are we doing it to consolidate with the primary election or the special election, excuse me? I'm not really sure exactly which election it is, hence we need more education about what's happening and what the pros and cons would be to it, to moving to this. And what happens to the election we just had? We have some council members that just ran. What happens? What happens to the council members who term out? Are they able to run again? I have a lot of questions and concerns about what we're moving towards. And then the possibility of having 2 reps for 1 district. Is that okay? Is that, equitable for the rest of the districts? Just a lot of, I think, clarification on where we're headed and why we're headed there, and clear outlining of what the mayor's role would be. Is there veto power? Is there not veto power? Just those types of clarifications, and will there be a forum to discuss this? We have a short window. I think we're already past one window, and the next window is like March 6th. What is the timeline on this? Do we have clear timelines on what we're doing? So I just like an opportunity to have a public forum or some type of workshop or a committee forum to discuss what we're choosing here and why. So, thank you.
Thank you, Krista.
And Mayor, that was our last speaker.
Those are all of the comments. Okay.
Mayor, would you like me to take a stab at trying to answer some of those questions?
Let's
Or do you wanna have
have
council discussion?
council comments first.
I'd like to speak, if I could.
You want to speak first?
Yes.
Okay.
Please. First of all, I want to agree with the 4 young ladies that stood up here and talked. I had the same questions when it first came up. You know, I'm not opposed to voters having a voice. I'm opposed to rushing a major governance change through a special election that costs taxpayers over $150,000 and forces redistricting for the community. And, you know, it's on a special election, the June election, we have low turnout, high cost, limited engagement, and you know, this is something that should come out in a general election. When you change governance, you know, it should be on a general election. So rushing something like this and having to pay the money, plus the cost, like you said, for the city employees that have to get all the paperwork together, the meetings that you talked about that they have to have for the general public, it's crazy. It's something that shouldn't happen this fast for something this big. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. And actually, I'm going to ask one question first, and that's going to be a question to Councilmember Lodge, who brought this forward at the last meeting. Why? Why now, and what benefit will it be to the city?
Well, the reason now is because of term limitations, and this will only happen once every 12 years if somebody maxes out. And I was asked to bring this by several people just because they want to make sure that there is a full representation and transparency on the council. It's one of the things that we brought up. And that's why, and now is because of the election, this June's election. The timing should have been earlier, but it just wasn't. So.
Okay.
Mm.
All righty, thank
Is that
you.
it?
We'll go down to Connie.
Left me off easy.
So when I was asked about this, I said, yeah, I'd consider it. I can't tell you how many people have gotten to me. So one light went on and I was like, what is the problem we're trying to fix here? And I don't have an answer to that, what's the problem? It came up back in November 2023, and there were some entities that had requested this also. And I don't like what I see in what that mayor would be. I see it becoming a political position because it's one person and all the other districts are separate. So that mayor has no district of their own. Therefore, that person is someone that you would want to have on your side so that there is that extra vote. I don't like the time frame. I did not know that the time frame was so quickly. I was just in Cal Cities. If there's something that needs to be fixed, then why don't we discuss charter or have a discussion of maybe a mayor being 2 years instead of just the one, if 1 year isn't enough for the mayor. But I don't like 151,000 to spend quickly, especially when it's come up before 2 years ago. And I don't have a problem that we're going to solve with this for 150,000. And that's my feeling. I went in and I looked at the strong mayor, I looked at the weak mayor, and I got educated about what it is, but this isn't that, but I don't know what it would be either. And I'm not willing to just make a decision because we've got to get it into a vote. I'm not a planner like that. Trust me, when I moved back home to Hemet, I made my husband live with it for years. So I'm just thinking, I don't know that I could handle the bigger district. I just sat with some of my people in district. But I can't do it. I cannot spend 151,000 and think that we're solving a problem that I don't even know. And thank you.
Okay, Jackie?
Okay, so one of the reasons we brought this up a couple years ago was for continuity. So every year, we, the council, nominate somebody for mayor, and we get criticized for who we pick for mayor. Okay, they say, you pick that person? Okay, so you people want to vote for your mayor. That's what I'm hearing out in town. And it's democracy. You choose who you want, and you elect your mayor. If you get somebody in there bad, 2 years might be a good thing. You know, if you get somebody bad, you don't want them in there for 4 years. So that would be an option maybe that the public would want. But when we discussed this a couple years ago, I said, I think people would be more involved. So if people are looking at a ballot, they're going to read what the people stand for. They're going to vote for that person. They're going to follow that person to see if they won or not. If they get in office, they're still going to follow them more. I think it would have more city involvement. And the mayor would just be another council member, another vote. It's not like they're up above us when it comes to the dais. We all have the same vote. So basically, I hear it out in town. They say, we want to elect a mayor. You know, and like I said, we get criticized for the people that we do pick. And, you know, a lot of times it's like this little game every December. You know, it's like, well, who's going to be mayor? And, you know, well, we don't want this person. And I mean, I've watched other cities. We've watched other cities and the fiasco they go through trying to nominate and select a mayor. And it's ridiculous. You know, why don't the people elect their own mayor? That's what I'm saying. We're growing, we're getting bigger. A lot of cities have gone to this now. So I think it's a good idea. And that's what I have to say.
Okay, it's my turn. I was very taken aback when this was brought up at the last election, or the last council meeting. I don't like the idea of being basically blindsided by an issue that needs a lot of transparency, that needs a lot of research, that needs a lot of education from the public. I don't like the idea of having to spend $150,000 or more when we could be spending it on something else. So I know there's a lot of information that goes into a situation like this, and I can make a motion, right?
You're the mayor.
And then figure out whether anybody's going to agree with me. I would make a motion that we deny the recommendation, but also make a recommendation that we look into this alternative, gather information on other cities in the state of California in going forward with and not having a citizen vote, but just having it by ordinance, taking input from the people and going from there. Because quite frankly, I'm satisfied with the way the government runs right here, right now.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Males to deny the recommendation and to do further, was it meetings in regards to it? So, Councilmember Clark?
Would that not be two separate things?
Oh.
Pardon?
Wouldn't that be two separate things?
Recommendation to deny and then to move forward on
So it would be two
researching this other option that the city attorney brought to us of having it done by ordinance.
Right, good.
If you want to separate them, go ahead. We can
Well,
separate them?
Yeah, let's separate them.
Okay,
Yes, please.
I'll make the first motion to deny the recommendation.
And then still seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Males?
Are you still, you're going to?
We'll go with roll call. Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Lodge?
No.
Councilmember Peterson?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Males?
Yeah, yes.
Mayor Krupa?
Yes.
That motion passes 3-2.
Okay, my second motion would be to direct staff to look into this further, into this government section code 34886, and see how that applies to this council, to gather information on other cities who have changed or are thinking about changing their style of government, and bring back a lot of the factual education on what type of governance this would be.
So just to clarify, are we specifically looking at obviously a council manager form of government,
Yes.
a general law city,
Yes.
and a 2-year and/or 4-year directly elected mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Oh, I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Krupa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Males. Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Lodge?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Males?
Yes.
Mayor Krupa?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And now we will move on to 24C, consideration of the 2026 City of Hemet Community Survey. May we have a staff report, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, let me bring this up. Okay, first of all, apologize for not publishing this report earlier. Competing priorities, I think, challenged my ability to move this forward, but I was ambitious in the sense that I think there's a timing issue in response to Mayor Krupa's request 2 meetings ago to consider bringing some form of public outreach forward in advance of two important near-term milestones. One of those is our goal-setting workshop, and today it appears we've started to hold time on April 10th. That's a Friday. I don't know that it's even been placed on your calendars yet. It was placed on mine as we've been looking at options in the context of budget development. The second milestone is the forthcoming consideration and development of the budget, which will take place largely between April and June, the end of June. And so sometimes cities take opportunities to do community surveys. Often this occurs with the assistance of outside help, and often it may happen, let's say, every 3 years to provide cities that continue to maintain that commitment of survey work to spot trends over time. The importance of that is let's say the first survey may identify a policy challenge or a citizen challenge, and a council may subsequently address those issues, and the expectation would be that the feedback from the community would improve, right, over time, and you're able to measure that performance through citizen survey work. So and then there's 2 different types today available to us. Essentially, if we're looking at it from a purely statistical, clean research perspective, that should be done with statistical sampling. So what we would one option, there's really two options moving forward, should we want to move forward. One option is using some statistical research where a random sample of 4,000 to 5,000 people would be selected and the survey would be administered to them. That is going to cost between approximately $12,000 and $25,000. It depends partly on different companies provide slightly different services. Sometimes it's like Southwest Airlines today. You pay for the bags or you don't pay for the bags, right? There are add-on elements to this. Sometimes Spanish translation is free, for example, it's included. Other times it's an incremental cost. It just depends on the vendor that we're working with, and there are a number of vendors that are available to provide services in this area. Another example is if the survey leader, the consultant, was invited to present to the city council the findings and essentially convey their own experiences and interpretation of the data, whether they're in person or via Zoom, for example, there'll be a different cost to that. It doesn't have to happen. Staff is capable of doing that providing that same service to you. You probably would receive a slightly higher level of service from someone that does this regularly. The other alternative is something that, if you're comfortable with it, could be more affordable on the lower end of the cost range. And that is, it would be a survey link available to everyone, where a survey link would be provided. Anyone in the community would be able to answer questions. We would obviously have some questions early, asking people what their zip code is, or if they live in the city or not in the city, just to help understand the data set a little bit more. There are enough questions that it's highly unlikely that someone would want to take the survey thousands of times to try to influence the margin of error. But these are the two distinctions, and it really is a range from about 12,000 to 25. I think it'll be lower in the low 20s range based on conversations I've had. I have one more telephone call to make tomorrow. We've set up a time to talk in the morning with another vendor that may be slightly more affordable, and I just need to understand what those what the services are that they provide. The type of topics that we would seek feedback on, and this is really to really assess community perspectives on quality of life and governmental services, but those could include quality of life issues, customer service issues, governance, economy, mobility, safety. Mobility is really transportation, right, and accessible roads, etc. Safety, infrastructure, education, arts and culture, and health and wellness. Those are typical categories. I would recommend that we, if desired by the council to move forward with the survey, it would be my recommendation, a strong recommendation, that we produce the survey instrument in Spanish and English. And in terms of timing, the staff report indicates that this could deploy in 3 weeks. I do have a draft. It needs to be reviewed. It would be my recommendation that the mayor and the mayor pro tem, if possible, would work with me to look at a final product before it moves forward. If there are any council members that would like to offer recommendations on questions, I would request that you send those to me, and we could potentially incorporate those into the survey instrument. It is technically possible to deploy this in approximately 3 weeks after signing a contract. I probably am a little ambitious because I'm a glass half full type of person, so I would like the grace of an additional week. I think the real target is we would like to get some data. If we move forward, it would be important to receive data before April 10th. That's the target. So that we're 2 months out from that. We would begin to see data in the first couple of days and trends. So the hope would be that we'd complete a couple of weeks minimum on the survey instrument before April 10th. So that from a timing perspective, I think we still have room to do this. And then in terms of how to fund this, we do have some salary savings that are available. We've essentially hit our target. We're close to hitting our target, even after accounting for various individual decisions to fund certain additional services, for example, fire prevention, which is being partially funded out of salary savings to deal with vacancies. So there are some funds that are available for reprogramming. So I'm happy to answer any further questions you would have on this.
So how would we know if you do the last one you were talking about, that everybody could do the survey? So will there be a question, for instance, what district are you in? Will we get that kind of feedback because I care, you
Right.
know?
I think the challenge, the challenge with districts in particular is that our district boundaries are so irregular. It's very difficult for the average person to know without consulting a tool on our website, which we can make available. I would have to, I'm sure we could integrate it into the survey. Generally, there are hyperlinks available and someone could look up their council district. We could also ask the question, which of the following members of the city council is your directly elected representative? But it wouldn't surprise me that the question should be asked, queried, placing the address into the query and receiving feedback. It's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, probably the address,
Right.
definitely. Yeah.
Other comments? No? No? Yeah, I like this idea because when we sent out the survey on the branding and on Weston Park, and what else did we do? We sent out another one on the traffic and pedestrian street traffic, whatever that was that we did. We got a lot of really good information, and I just like the idea. It's not mandatory, but it sure helps when you're sitting in this position trying to make a decision and you have no clue what people want and what they're thinking about. So I think a survey like this ones that I have looked at, some of them have been so confusing I had no idea what the questions were or even how to answer them. But others are really kind of straightforward, and there's some basic questions. Where do you live? Do you like this? Do you not like this? What do you like? It's just things like that. What should we do? What should we avoid? Types of things. So I think it's a great idea. So any public comment on this one?
We have no registered speakers.
Anybody want to say anything? I think you all agree. Yeah. If you want to come up to the microphone if you want to have a public comment.
I just have one other question about the mayor thing. I know it was.
It's on this topic.
Oh, that's what I said. Is it on any topic?
I didn't hear, I have hearing problems.
You sure?
Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards. Alrighty. Anybody want to comment on this particular item? Yes, Karen. Come on up to the microphone before you start talking. Green light. Okay, just adjust it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't my eyes. My question was if Council Member Males and Mayor Krupa are going to review the survey questions, would it be possible to put a citizen or two on that same committee or meeting or whatever to?
It's okay with me.
Yeah, okay.
We could have an open meeting.
Sure, we can schedule a meeting.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I'd be interested, thank you.
What I would recommend is we have the council, from a structure standpoint, it would be helpful to have a limited number. So one option would be, for example, to have each council member ask one or two members of the public to join us for a conversation. The longer we take, the more we risk not getting it out in time. So recognize that there's some limitations. Now, there is a survey instrument called the National Citizen Survey. It's a survey that, I should mention this for context because this might be helpful. The National Citizen Survey is a survey that benchmarks, it asks a number of questions. It's roughly 80+ questions. A lot of these answers are a range of feedback from strongly agree to strongly disagree and everything in between, right? So it's very time consuming. That survey would, if that was, that survey can be, we can adapt questions from the survey that's used by a lot of other agencies, particularly if we're leaning towards the survey link that's available for everyone as opposed to the statistical sample. The everyone link, we can still replicate a number of those questions. That's where I started from, frankly, because I wanted to make sure that we asked a number of questions that were commonly asked in similar citizen surveys developed by many, many agencies over dozens of years. I actually worked on, and we deployed a citizen survey like that in another agency, came back 3 years later and did it again. But I think we have a broad range of questions. The only thing I'm concerned about is it being too long. I think there's a balance between, and I think that National Citizen Survey is extremely long. There's probably a value in paring it down, including some questions, and that this is another consideration. When we work with certain vendors, there's a cost to adding your own personalized questions. And the feedback I've received to date is anything more than 5, even adding 5 costs money, but that's going to be about the limit in some cases. But if we choose this other alternative of it goes out for everyone, we can really choose as many different questions as we want that pertain to the city of, that are unique to us, that are unique to the moment in time that we're at. You may have specific questions about projects and so forth coming forward. And in some of the platforms, we're able to have unlimited surveys through, the next year. It's often set up as an annual subscription. So in some cases, you can run as many polls as you want on various topics. So in some ways, it could be helpful for a number of other policy issues coming forward.
Okay.
Hope that's helpful.
Jeremy, right? Jeremiah, okay.
There we go. There is a concern that my wonderful wife decided to bring up, and I'll just go ahead and be blunt with it. We have a lot of old people that live here in the valley.
Hey, we're all old people up
I know,
here.
I know. I got the white hair already as well. Come, yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's true.
Yes, I still am a whippersnapper. That's right. But one of the concerns that we have with regards to the survey that my wife brought up is that a lot of people, the way that it is accessible is typically through phone service, like a text message, or it's through some other type of medium, like social media. The problem is that we're going to be focusing then on an age group that's probably in their 40s and 50s and less, whereas a lot of our population comprises of individuals that are 50 years old and higher. So, yeah, way higher, as Joe was just indicating.
I see the smiles on most
So-
of the people in the audience, and they're
I'm
all
trying to
over
represent.
50.
I'm trying to help everybody represent. But that is a question that I have for the city manager: is how are we going to be able to make sure that we cast a wide enough net to make this inclusive for our senior citizens?
He'll have an answer for you.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to clarify for the record, I am a senior citizen.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm 56 years old, and my generation invented the internet, I believe. And so all these tools that my children use, I remind them that those were brought to you by the 56-year-olds, and some of them a little older than me. So that's an important fact to put on the record. We can control for that in both in both options, the statistical method, where a random sample of, let's say, 4,000 or 5,000 people are selected. The vendor would also send a paper version. They would send a postcard or a letter with a special QR code or website link, and they would also send the survey in paper form, so that person would have an option to complete the survey in that format. Alternatively, we can make available to the community either at City Hall, library, fire stations, online for download. You can print your own copy. We would make paper copies available. What we would need to do is then input the data. So there would need to be some data input with however many surveys show up in paper. And so there's a little timing associated with that. But we do have some interns that can help with some of that work product. It would be it's easier for us if more people use the survey link. And I'm I'm receiving text messages from in-laws and others that I'm confident can take this survey.
Yes.
City Manager, Mark, don't forget, we had probably 10% of the population at my district meeting that had no phone. So he was spot on.
Right, and that's why we'd had the paper versions available. And that's what we did in these other agencies as well. Even, 20 years ago when I was working on this larger survey, that was still the format. We had paper alternatives for all surveys that we did.
Yeah. At one time, we did a survey and we inserted them in utility bills. Make sure everybody got them, and that's always a way to get it out to everyone too. So, if there's no more questions or comments, entertain a motion. Entertain a motion?
I will make a motion to approve this item and go with the survey.
Second.
And can I clarify that is there a preference for the survey that is available for anyone in the community? Okay, I think it'll end up being slightly more affordable. We will have the opportunity for some open-ended questions to receive some suggestions on various topics, and those can be very valuable as well.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a motion by Councilmember Peterson, seconded by Councilmember Clark. We'll do roll call. Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Lodge.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Males.
Yes.
Mayor Krupa.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0.
All righty. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to City Council and staff reports. Let's start down at the end with Councilmember Clark.
So January 29th, we had my district gathering. I wouldn't say it was overwhelmingly attended, but I think it started a thought process. And yes, we didn't know that some people were not going to have phones, or I had a 10-year-old boy come to me who had somebody in a halfway house that had been following him. And he had called the police twice, and the captain had another officer come in immediately and talk to the boy. I talked to his mother yesterday, and he hasn't been bothered. I went to Supervisor Gutierrez's office on that next Monday, and I told them what I had encountered. And I wanted us to have a united front, because I think we're forsaking our kids for adult rights, and that's not right. I told his mom I was not going to stop there. I'm going to start moving up the ladder, because it's not okay. But I would say that most of the information that came from that meeting, I would highly suggest any of my fellow council members, if you want to figure out what's going on, spend an evening with Noah and Monique and Sarah, everybody, Captain, Ryan Webb, City Manager. It was great. So I want to thank everybody. I went to RCA and WRCOG. That's moving along nicely. Apparently, there are 6 cities that are up in arms over Caltrans not working on their 215 and 15 exchange, getting it bigger. So I did kind of throw in, maybe we could get our alignment too, because we've been waiting longer than you. I doubt that'll happen. So then we had our investment meeting. City's doing wonderfully, and I'm very happy about that. There have been some recommendations we're looking into. Hemet Fire Ladder of Excellence. I enjoyed all the kids, all the firefighters, the chief. They have a unique family, and I think that's pretty cool to see that interaction. And then let's see, Monday, we had a lot of things on our agenda. CDBG ad hoc funding recommendations. Councilmember Males and myself are going to go on a little field trip to see a potential funding recipient. And then we have the Downtown Theater ad hoc meeting, which was an exchange of really good ideas, aspirations, enthusiasm, and I think we really hit all that. I couldn't get to the Hemet Youth Council, but I'm here. And that's it. Thank you.
Alrighty. Councilmember Lodge.
Well, I don't have much to report, if anything, because I've been a slug and laying on the couch.
Well,
Not voluntarily. So give me 2 weeks and I will have a amazing hour and 45-minute report for you.
We'll give you 6 minutes
Okay,
when you come
minute
back.
45 seconds.
We appreciate the fact that you are here in person.
Last night, Mayor Krupa and I, we attended the Cal Cities meeting, and there were 3 elected officials who had representatives there, and they talked about the many bills that are in motion. And Cal Cities is very active, and we are sponsoring some of these bills, so that was kind of interesting to hear what's coming forward for us in the state. We had an arts and culture ad hoc meeting, and I'm telling you, we're doing a lot with this. I'm going to go over some of the things. We had an extensive agenda the other day, and we mentioned at our last council meeting, we're going to have this new website called Hemet 365, and it's through a company called Artsopolis. And we are going to have a kickoff date soon, and we hope to launch it in April, in time for the Ramona Bowl to promote it, especially. But we want everybody to give us input when this goes live. So we want nonprofits, we want churches, we want the Hemet Theater. I mean, we want everybody. So Hemet is doing this, but we will take input from the Valley. So if Saboba is having something, if San Jacinto is having something, it's good for the Valley, and we want to bring more tourism, so it's good for everybody. So that's pretty exciting that we're going to have this, and it'll be a central point where visitors and local people say there's nothing to do in Hemet. I'm so tired of hearing that. There's a lot going on. They just don't know where to look for it. So this will be a central place where they can go. So we're really happy about that. We have a public art ordinance policy update. The Planning Commission just looked at our ordinance and they approved it. And we will have that coming to council shortly. So we will have guidelines for people to do things in the city for arts. We have a mural task force that is alive and well. We have a wonderful artist that is going to help us with our first city mural, and we're going to be selecting young artists to help, and she's going to mentor them, and that's coming up real soon. We also have 5 grants that we are going to be looking at for library and other things in town. So we're doing a lot, and we're really trying to get more artsy and culture oriented, and bring Hemet up to where a lot of our local cities are, because they're doing a lot and we're just a little bit behind. So we are going to catch up. Ramona Bowl, the pageant is April 18th, 19th, April 25th, 26th, and May 2nd and 3rd. Tickets are on sale now. You can go online or go up to the bowl and purchase them. And they have a lot going on. They're going to have a concert series, and you can go to their website. They have all different genres of music that they're going to do this summer. And there's a quite extensive list that they're going to be doing. And also they have Ramona Market, so there's a lot of fun activities going on with that, and that's also listed on their website, the dates for that. And just a reminder, the wonderful documentary that was done on Ramona, it will be showing at the Idlewild Film Festival, and that's on Tuesday, March 3rd at 11 o'clock. I know a lot of you are working and everything, but if you can, run up there and see this documentary. You will be blown away with the impact that it has. This isn't, I'm going to bring up something kind of different now. This isn't an official ad hoc, but I'm going to ask Mayor Krupa and the city manager, can we please address Weston Park now and the shuffleboard?
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, a final decision has not been made. However, I have totally changed my mind, and I was the one that said, let's move the shuffleboard building. So, quite honestly, I don't think they have anything to worry about. But we're going to put murals on it. You want to add anything else?
And another thing on that, we're talking about engaging the community more. We've had several outreach meetings at different community events, and the public has given us input. We had 3 concept drawings, and we've narrowed it down to 1, and I think you're going to be really happy with what we decide on, and it'll be a big improvement for our city. So, it's coming, it's just not finalized, so we can't really say anything because they're just tweaking the design yet. So we are trying to be transparent. It's just not final yet.
I would just add that the final recommendation includes the shuffleboard building with the expectation that art be added to the exterior.
Thank you.
Not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Not in my lifetime.
No more shuffleboard, people. It's here.
Hey, you know something? It gets them out, this is terrible to say, it gets them out of the house and gets them engaged. And we had no idea how many people belong to the shuffleboard group in Hemet, and how, I knew they used to bring in big tournaments, but I haven't been to one of them in the last few years, but it's still going on. And it's absolutely wonderful. And the reason I don't go there anymore is because they basically banned me because I was playing shuffleboard at one of the courts and I put a puck through the wall. It's like, you can't hit it that hard. So I'm banned from shuffleboard. Go ahead.
Okay. My voice is really out, so I'm going to keep it short. Council members, Connie Clark and I did have the CDBG talks and got the nonprofits squared away, and we will be out there at one nonprofits trying to just to make sure that everything's going right, the way it should be going in the nonprofit, and making sure that the money that we're giving out from our grants are being used properly. So we are doing our due diligence. Also, Council Member Peterson and myself we're at the quarterly leadership meeting for the homeless, county homeless, San Jacinto River Bottom outreach. And we had some good news. They told us that 237 permanent housing people got housed, 14 temporary people got housed, 14 veterans got housed, and they're doing a great job, along with the sheriffs, along with the Hemet Police, our Aero team. We have 2 Aero teams that are now, I believe, 7 days a week, and from 7 or 8 in the morning till 7 or 8 at night. I'm not sure what the exact hours are, but they're working with our homeless. And people still bring them out here. They're still coming. So we're doing our job and trying to get them housed and trying to make sure that they're not out with signs on our mediums. But I'm going to stop there and pass it on to our mayor.
Okay. I thank Connie and Jackie for reporting on all of the things that I went to with them, so I don't need to do that. I will say the Ladder of Excellence event that we had up here at the library for the fire department last week was wonderful. It was so nice to see the number of new firefighters that we have and the paramedics, and there were so many young children here from the age of about 10 down to little babies. I don't think I've seen so many kids associated with the city of Hemet in a long time, and it was really gratifying to see. So with that, Kathy, is anything going on in the library? Do you have reading tomorrow? Okay, so 1:30? 3:30. Reading at the library. And if, as people in the community, you want to read to kids, talk to Kathy. Sign up to read a book to children at the library. It's a fantastic experience. In and Out is coming in March. So with that, City Manager, it's up to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, this is the year of quality of life. And so we are chasing a number of citizen initiatives. One of those is Hemet Beautiful. We're coming back for the 3rd consecutive year. This is going to be a community day of service on April 25th. Last year we had 498 people sign up for this. I'm confident that we can get to 500, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm confident for that is we've just launched this last weekend, the I Love Hemet initiative. And if we had 50 people, 50 volunteers and others that joined and volunteered their time on a Saturday morning to help clean up parts of Hemet. And that's going to continue every month. We have, the last Saturday. The next one will be February 28th, and then followed by March 28th. People can go to hemetca.gov and sign up for these. I want you to know that just in the wake of that event, we have now nearly 90, I think almost 100 people that have signed up for I Love Hemet. And so what we're going to do internally is ask all of those folks, are some of you interested in assisting once a week for an hour on some given morning? And maybe we can have a couple of different crews out there, but I'm really excited about the feedback and the turnout for this. This is the community stepping up, and I'm really proud of that. So I'm confident that they will also join Hemet Beautiful, and we'll pump those numbers up. So today we did some internal planning on projects. We're going to be looking hard at the downtown, the number of projects that will help in the downtown. Really excited to bring that forward on April 25th. Thank you.
Very good. And do we have any future agenda items? Well, we just added, not agenda items, but we added some more work to your schedule. So, okay, everybody wants to go home. You're already packed up. Okay. You're waiting on me. Okay, with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting to our next regular meeting, which will be February 24th. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.